So we have 2 languages. Keep your hands up if you've got 3 languages. You've still got a hand up.
Do you mean fluency or just sort of?
Okay, let's say sort of. If you understand, yeah? 4. Who's got a hand up still for 4? That's the gentleman who has got his hand up. How many languages do you speak?
5.
5 languages. Wonderful. Can you tell us what those languages are, please?
English.
English.
Kannada. Mother tongue.
Say that again?
Kannada.
Kannada.
Yeah.
Okay.
K-N-N-A-D-A.
Ah.
Kannada. Hindi.
Okay. Hindi.
Tamil.
Tamil.
Telugu.
Telugu. And where's Telugu from?
Telugu.
No, my mother tongue is Kannada.
Yeah. And the other, your final language you said was?
Last one was Telugu.
And whereabouts is that from? India, no?
Yeah.
All are from South India.
South India.
Yes,
Okay.
English and Hindi.
Okay, wonderful.
English is a word.
That's right.
Hindi is our national language.
Okay, got you.
So it is compulsory to learn in order to interact with
Yeah.
others. The remaining 3 are South Indian languages.
Okay. So that's 5 languages. Well,
Total 5.
I think we need to give you a round of applause. Congratulations. Thank you. It's interesting that I've chosen this subject today to talk about because I am not a linguist. I'm not a polyglot. I do not speak lots of languages. And I decided to choose this because of my experience. And perhaps it will help people and inspire them to think about their languages. So I am going to do this because this is the way I think it'll be quite interesting. So this is me when I was very young. And I grew up, I was born in England to a working class family in the north of England. And so I speak English with a Yorkshire accent. And my Yorkshire accent has stayed with me throughout my life. And I went on to university. I was probably one of the only member of my family, extended member of my family, to go on to university. And I ended up, after university, in a marketing job, working for a retail company, and I really didn't like it. I hated it. And I was fortunate one day to go down to the marina, which is close to my work, and in the marina was an amazing, great big private yacht. And I packed in my work, got on the boat, and we travelled to the Mediterranean. And I ended up on an island called Mallorca, which belongs to Spain. And instead of staying there for a few months, I ended up staying there for 30 years. And I married my husband, who's from South Africa, and he speaks Afrikaans a little bit. And we had 2 children who were born there and grew up there. So my 2 boys speak fluent English at home, and their street languages are Catalan and Castellano. So I spent 30 years learning Spanish. This time last year, my husband and I decided to have a big lifestyle change. And we moved again, this is moving islands, and we moved to live in Zanzibar, Tanzania, which is in Africa. And now I'm attempting to learn Swahili. Now I'm over 50, so in theory I'm not supposed to be able to learn languages. But what I found when I was in Spain was that my education in England had failed me miserably, in that in my generation, when we were at school, we did not learn how to dissect a sentence. We didn't know what a verb was, and Esther's nodding her head because she understands.
That's how they taught Welsh.
That's how they taught in school. So when I came to learn Spanish, I couldn't do it. It was so difficult for me. So I was fortunate enough to find an Irish teacher who, instead of teaching me English, she taught me Spanish. And what she did with me was she said, "What do you need to learn now?" And I was working on the boats. I needed to buy fruit and vegetables. So she taught me how to say the words for fruit and vegetables. So I found myself in the market in Spain, pointing and going, "Un kilo de zanahorias, por favor." And the lady going, "Ah, muy bien, hablas español." Whoa, wait. And gradually, slowly, learning the words I needed to learn, I picked up the language. Fast forward to me now in Zanzibar, and I'm doing exactly the same. So I'm learning to utilize the language for my own benefit. So I know how to go to the market and ask for an ende or a nanasi, which is a pineapple and a mango, because those are the things that I need on a daily basis. I haven't yet strung my sentences together well. I'm still very much in the baby steps, speaking kidogo, kidogo, poco, poco, little by little. And I know that I will get there one day. The fascinating thing about languages is, and that my experience is, that the language is really a part of the culture. So I grew up in a Protestant culture in England, and I have a difficulty. I was trying to explain to friends the other week. I speak English fluently, but I've lived outside the country for 30 years now. And so in some experiences I feel very much like a foreigner, and I really wish I didn't speak the language well. Things have moved on in England over the last 30 years, but my cultural aspect of the language has not moved forward. And I find some things very frustrating and things I don't understand. How do you buy bus tickets? You know, how do you deal with all these issues that you have with health and safety? Rubbish. Where do you put your rubbish? Why have you got 3 bins for different collections? And all sorts of strange things that I don't understand because it's not part of my culture. When I was in Spain, for example, I noticed that the culture is so different from England. So it's a Catholic country. It's very Mediterranean, lots of lovely sun. So people do things like, for example, pasear. Now, if you translated pasear using Google, it will tell you to go for a walk. But pasear in Spanish is about getting dressed up, going out with your friends or your husband, walking down and promenading through the town or down by the coast, maybe stopping and having a coffee. And interestingly enough, did you know that there's 30 different words for coffee in Spanish? Or maybe it's 40.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think there's 40 different words in Spanish for coffee?
For different ways of drinking it, different occasions.
Because it's a really big part of the culture. Why do the Eskimos have 40 different words for snow? For the same reason, because it's a really big part of their culture. So
we've got many different ways to describe rain and
Welsh.
talk about the weather.
Well, that's perfect, isn't it? It would explain everything.
Yes.
You need all these different words in Wales to explain rain.
Yes.
You get it every day. So again, moving forward now into my new culture in Zanzibar. Zanzibar is a Muslim country. So I'm finding that I'm having to learn new things again. So the day's very much organised by the time of prayer, and it's very rude to say anything to anyone without greeting them properly to start with. So you must take a lot of time preparing your hellos, how are you again, how are you, and that goes on for maybe 5 minutes before you can start your conversation. So culture is a really part and parcel of a language, and you can't have one without the other. So if you think about it, in fact, Nelson Mandela said a wonderful quote, and I'm not going to go to say it word perfect, but what he did say was, if you speak to a man in a language he understands, it goes to his head. But if you speak to a man in a language of his own, it goes to his heart. And I think that's why it's important to be able to speak another language, because you do literally go to the person's heart. So the other thing that you need to do when you don't speak the language very well is obviously smile. Smiling is a wonderful thing, because smiling seems to translate into every language. So the first thing you need to do is smile. So my boys have done really well in that they've naturally become linguists, and they speak 3 languages fluently, plus English, plus German and Italian as well. For me it's been difficult and not so easy. But what I found is, do never ever use Google to translate. I made the mistake a few weeks ago of translating a menu for some Swahili chefs that I was working with. And the lady came to me and she said, "I'm very sorry, but please explain, why do you need lots of virgins?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" She said, "In the menu here you say you've got lots of virgins. Can you please explain what you mean?" So I looked at the English translation and I went, "No, it says lots of extra virgin olive oil." She went, "That explains everything." So Google's not a good thing to use. What I do use is I have a little book. It becomes my dictionary diary, and I write all my words that I need into the book, and I carry this with me constantly. And that reminds me, and it also gives me the opportunity when I'm speaking to someone to take on a new word. So I said, "What did you say?" And then I write it down quickly. So if we think about language and the importance of being able to speak other languages, and thinking about our heart and smiling, I think there's also another part of the issue of languages that is not a verbal language. There's a language that's inherent in all of us that goes much deeper than the level of speech. Can anybody think what that might be? What's deeper inside of us than the spoken language? So when we smile, for example, we give someone a wonderful feeling, and you just said it, what is it?
No.
That's right. We have a language inside us, a language of love. And I think that's probably more important in today's world than in learning any other language, is to remember that this language is deep inside us and probably has always been there. Can I just have 2 volunteers to come forward? I need 2 people to come. There has to be 2 people. So this is a wonderful piece of material that I bought from a Canadian lady in Mallorca that came from India and has now come back to India. It's my favourite piece. If you can just pull it so it's really, really tight, and if you hold both corners and just lay it flat and pull. So if we imagine this material is a summary of the universe as it is and as we understand it today. So the universe is made up of energy. Energy and space. And energy, we think, is infinite. That is always going to be there. So if we think about this in relation to ourselves as human beings, that if we were to put a little point in there, and your name's Esther, so let's pretend this is Esther here. Esther's made her own unique mark within the material of the universe. And we can see that. And this could be my little mark within the universe. And your name is? Yun. Yun. So Yun, this could be your mark within the universe. So although we're unique and different, we're actually all made of the same cloth. And if this is the case, then we all are made with the same love. And therefore, does it not make sense that we already speak the same language? That perhaps we've forgotten how to speak it? And that maybe today, in today's world, the most important thing about language is to speak the language of love. And I think, thank you ladies, you want to just take that with you.
I put it in my suitcase.
So that's gone. I think if we were to go out today and speak the language of love here at the conference to everybody, and speak to them from our hearts, and speak to them with a smile, then you don't really need to learn another language. The language is already there deep within you. And you'll be able to converse at a completely different level than you will by using your voice. And that's all I have to say today. So if anybody's got anything they want to question or